If you've ever wondered what happens when power, greed, and pure arrogance collide with a man who refuses to surrender his family's legacy, then today's story is one you won't forget. My name is Jake Donovan, and I never imagined that a quiet Tuesday morning on my family's farm would turn into the biggest legal battle this county had ever seen. An HOA president thought she could erase 4 generations of history with a stack of fake paperwork. She was wrong. By the time it was over, police cruisers surrounded the property. County investigators uncovered a shocking fraud. The HOA board turned against its own president. And the woman who tried to steal my land walked away in handcuffs. But before any of that happened, everything began with one simple knock on my front door. The first rays of sunlight stretched across Donovan family farm, turning the wheat fields into a sea of gold. The morning air smelled of fresh earth after a light summer rain. My grandfather always said that if you stood quietly enough, you could hear the land breathe. I believed him. For my family, this wasn't just another farm. It was home. My great-grandfather, Samuel Donovan, bought these 120 acres in 1948 after returning from World War II. He built the old red barn with timber cut from these very woods. My father expanded the farm, planted hundreds of apple trees, and taught me that land wasn't measured by dollars. It was measured by memories. Every fence post reminded me of my childhood. Every tractor track carried another season's hard work. Every harvest carried my family's name. I intended to protect that legacy until my last breath. My wife, Emily Donovan, stepped onto the porch carrying 2 steaming mugs of coffee. "You've been staring at those fields for 10 minutes, she teased. I smiled. "I'm just making sure they're still here." She laughed softly. "They're not going anywhere." Neither of us knew how wrong those words would become. About 30 minutes later, a deep rumble echoed from the gravel road. At first, I thought it was another farmer bringing equipment. Instead, 5 black luxury SUVs appeared in a line. Behind them came a survey truck. Then 2 pickups carrying contractors. My smile disappeared. Emily looked toward the road. "Jake, do you know those people?" I slowly shook my head. "No. But I don't like this." The convoy stopped in front of our farmhouse. Doors opened one after another. People in expensive suits stepped out. Surveyors carried tripods. Construction workers unloaded bright orange boundary stakes. Then, a woman wearing a white designer suit stepped forward as though she owned the place. She removed her sunglasses and smiled. "My name is Monica Blackwood, president of the Silver Creek Estates Homeowners Association. I believe this property belongs to us now." Silence. I honestly thought she was joking. Then I noticed nobody behind her was smiling. "What did you just say?" Monica opened a leather folder. "The HOA has approved a community expansion project." She pointed toward my largest wheat field. Approximately 20 acres now fall within our new development plan. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was completely insane. "You've driven onto private property to tell me my farm belongs to you?" She nodded without hesitation. "Correct." Emily stepped forward. "This land has been in Jake's family for generations." Monica shrugged. "That doesn't change our plans. Our attorneys have reviewed everything. We expect construction to begin next week." I folded my arms. "Then your attorneys need better maps." One of the surveyors quietly avoided eye contact. That was the first sign something wasn't right. Monica snapped her fingers, placed the markers. The surveyors hesitated. One finally whispered, "Ma'am, the county parcel records don't match these boundaries." Monica's smile vanished. "I didn't ask for your opinion. I asked you to do your job." The man looked trapped. He slowly picked up one orange stake. I walked directly into his path. "If you drive that stake into my field, you better be absolutely certain you have the law behind you." The worker froze. His hands shook. He looked at Monica, then back at me. The entire farm had become silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Monica took one slow step forward. "You don't intimidate me, Mr. Donovan." I met her eyes. "I'm not trying to. I'm warning you." She stared at me for several long seconds, then gave a single order. "Continue." The surveyor reluctantly raised his hammer. The first orange stake was driven into my family's land. The sharp metallic sound echoed across the farm. I looked down at the marker, then slowly looked back at Monica. She smiled, believing she had won. She had no idea. She had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Jake Donovan stood silently beside the bright orange survey stake that had been driven into the middle of his family's wheat field. For a few long seconds, nobody dared to speak. The only sound was the wind sweeping across the crops and the distant rumble of heavy construction equipment. Jake slowly lifted his eyes and fixed them on Monica Blackwood. "You've got 30 seconds, he said in a calm but chilling voice, "to pull that marker out of my land and leave." Monica folded her arms and laughed. "Or what?" she mocked. "You're one farmer. I'm the president of the Silver Creek Estates HOA. I have attorneys, contractors, and an entire board behind me." Jake took a slow step forward. "Money doesn't change property lines, Monica. Lies don't become truth just because you repeat them." Emily Donovan stood beside her husband, refusing to back away. "This farm has been in Jake's family for 4 generations. You don't get to rewrite history because you're obsessed with controlling everyone around you." Monica's smile faded. She turned toward the construction crew and shouted, "Enough talking! Bring the bulldozers in! Construction starts today!" The deep growl of a massive bulldozer echoed across the valley as it rolled toward the golden wheat field. The operator hesitated and lowered his window. "Ma'am, I still think we should wait for county approval." Monica's face twisted with anger. "I don't pay you to think. Move the machine!" The operator reluctantly eased the controls forward, but every inch the bulldozer moved made the gathered neighbors more uneasy. Jake looked across the field toward the old green tractor parked beside his red barn. It had belonged to his father and grandfather before him. Without another word, he walked across the yard, climbed into the cab, and turned the ignition. The familiar diesel engine roared to life, echoing across the farmland. Every person on the property turned to look. Jake slowly drove the tractor across the field until he positioned it directly in front of the bulldozer, blocking its path. Dust drifted into the air as the tractor came to a stop. The bulldozer operator shut down his engine and climbed out. "I'm not driving through a farmer to satisfy someone's ego," he said firmly. Monica exploded with rage. "Get back in that machine!" she screamed. "Do your job!" The operator shook his head. "No, this doesn't feel legal, and I'm not risking my career." He removed his hard hat, dropped it on the ground, and walked away. One by one, the remaining contractors followed him, refusing to continue the project. Monica could hardly believe what she was seeing. "You're all cowards!" she yelled. Old Ben Harper stepped forward with a grin. "No, Monica, they're just smart enough to know when they're being used." The crowd erupted with murmurs of agreement. Furious, Monica stormed to her luxury sports car, grabbed another folder of documents, and marched back. "This changes nothing," she shouted. "The HOA has authority over this expansion." At that moment, attorney Richard Hayes arrived, carrying certified county records and original property deeds. He calmly spread the documents across the hood of his truck for everyone to see. "These are the official county records," he announced. "They clearly show that every inch of this farmland belongs to Jake Donovan." Monica snatched the papers and flipped through them, her confidence fading with every page. Richard continued. "What's even more interesting is that the county inspected this property yesterday. Someone intentionally moved the original survey markers nearly 40 feet onto Jake's land." The crowd gasped. Emily looked at Monica in disbelief. "You actually tried to fake the property line?" Before Monica could respond, the sound of sheriff sirens echoed across the valley. Several patrol vehicles rolled onto the farm, and Sheriff Daniel Cross stepped out, calmly surveying the tense scene. Monica hurried toward him. "Sheriff, thank goodness you're here. This farmer is interfering with an authorized HOA project." Sheriff Cross accepted the documents from both sides and carefully compared them. After several minutes, he looked directly at Monica. "These papers from your HOA are internal proposals. They do not transfer ownership of private property." Monica tried to interrupt, but he raised a hand. "An HOA cannot simply claim someone else's land." Just then, construction foreman Evan Ross slowly stepped forward. His voice trembled as he addressed the sheriff. "I need to tell you something." Monica's eyes widened. "Evan, don't you dare." Ignoring her, Evan continued. "Last week, Monica ordered us to move the county survey markers so it would look like the farmland belonged to the HOA. I knew it was wrong, so I recorded the meeting." A stunned silence fell over the crowd. Sheriff Cross held out his hand, and Evan gave him his phone containing the recording. Monica's face turned pale. The confidence she had shown all morning disappeared in an instant. Sheriff Cross turned to his deputies. "No one leaves this property. This is now an active investigation." Neighbors began recording everything on their phones as county investigators photographed the markers, measured the boundaries, and collected documents. Standing beside his tractor, Jake looked across the golden fields his family had protected for generations. Monica had arrived believing she could intimidate one farmer into surrendering his family's legacy. Instead, her own plan was beginning to collapse before the eyes of the entire county, and everyone knew that the real battle was only just beginning. The flashing red and blue lights remained parked outside the Donovan family farm long after the sun had disappeared below the horizon. Sheriff's deputies secured the property, while county investigators carefully photographed every survey marker, every document, and every inch of the disputed land. Monica Blackwood stood silently beside her luxury SUV, no longer looking like the confident HOA president who had marched onto the farm that morning. Her expensive suit was covered in dust, and for the first time, the arrogance had disappeared from her face. Sheriff Daniel Cross watched as investigators compared the official county maps with the markers that had been placed across Jake Donovan's wheat field. After nearly an hour of measurements, the lead investigator walked back holding a GPS tablet. "Sheriff," he said, "the original county property line hasn't changed in over 70 years. These orange markers were intentionally placed almost 40 feet inside Mr. Donovan's property." A wave of whispers spread through the gathered crowd. Monica immediately tried to defend herself. "Those workers must have made a mistake," she insisted. "I only followed the paperwork given to me." Richard Hayes stepped forward holding another folder. "That explanation would have sounded more convincing if we didn't already have the contractor's statement and the recorded meeting." Evan Ross handed Sheriff Cross additional emails and printed instructions showing that Monica had personally directed the survey crew to relocate the markers before construction began. Emily Donovan looked at Monica with disbelief. "You planned this from the beginning, didn't you?" Monica remained silent. Sheriff Cross nodded toward one of his deputies. Collect every electronic device and every project document connected to this construction. The deputies immediately secured the evidence, while county officials interviewed each contractor separately. One after another, the workers repeated the same story. Monica had pressured them to move the markers and assured them that nobody would question the new boundary lines. The evidence continued to grow stronger with every statement. 3 weeks later, the Ashwood County Courthouse was overflowing with reporters, local residents, and members of the Silver Creek Estates HOA. The case had become the biggest local news story in years. Inside the courtroom, Jake sat quietly beside Emily and Richard Hayes. Across the aisle, Monica looked exhausted. Gone were the confident smiles and expensive speeches. Even several HOA board members refused to sit near her. When Judge Eleanor Brooks entered the courtroom, the room fell completely silent. Richard Hayes presented the original property deeds dating back 4 generations, certified county surveys, satellite photographs, witness statements, and the GPS measurements taken during the investigation. Sheriff Daniel Cross testified about what he found when he arrived at the farm. County surveyors confirmed under oath that the legal property line had never changed. Finally, Evan Ross took the witness stand and described a private meeting where Monica instructed the contractors to relocate the boundary markers before the project began. He then played the recording from his phone. The courtroom listened as Monica's own voice ordered the workers to move the markers and told them, "Once construction starts, nobody will question the new property line." The room became completely silent. Even Monica's attorney slowly lowered his head. The evidence was overwhelming. Judge Brooks carefully reviewed every document before speaking. This court finds that the disputed farmland has always belonged to Mr. Jake Donovan and his family. The evidence clearly shows that false property markers were intentionally placed on private land in an attempt to interfere with lawful ownership. No homeowners association has the authority to seize privately owned farmland without legal process or the owner's consent. She then ordered that the false markers be removed immediately and declared all HOA claims against the Donovan property invalid. The Silver Creek Estates Board announced Monica Blackwood's immediate removal as HOA president. Outside the courthouse, Sheriff Cross approached Monica with 2 deputies. "Miss Blackwood," he said calmly, "based on the investigation and the court's findings, you are under arrest on charges related to falsifying property records, directing unlawful interference with private property, and evidence tampering. You have the right to remain silent." The crowd watched quietly as Monica was escorted to a patrol vehicle. Reporters rushed forward, cameras flashing from every direction, but she said nothing. Several days later, peace finally returned to the Donovan farm. County workers removed the false survey stakes and restored the original property markers exactly where they had stood for decades. The damaged fence was repaired, and fresh rows of wheat swayed gently beneath the afternoon sun. Jake stood beside the old green tractor, while Emily joined him, smiling as they looked across the fields. Old Ben Harper tipped his hat and laughed. "Looks like the truth grows stronger than any lie." Jake smiled for the first time in weeks. "This farm isn't just land," he replied. "It's my family's history, and no amount of money or power can erase that." The camera slowly pulled back, revealing the golden fields stretching toward the horizon as the sun disappeared behind the old red barn. Sometimes the strongest victory doesn't come from revenge. It comes from refusing to surrender what is rightfully yours, standing your ground and letting the truth speak louder than intimidation. The battle for Donovan Farm was over, but its story would be remembered across Ashwood County for generations.
Subscribe the channel and press the bell icon for new updates.